Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition series of Cellar Talks. And this series is about six Spanish wine regions, and we are going to visit Spain in the next weeks or months, I would say, together with Grandes Pagos de España. And of course, you will learn all about this association and the regions of Spain and that we're going to discuss. But today we have a guest which I will announce shortly, so I'll see if he's available to join us in the show. Yes, just a minute, everybody. We are. There you are. Hi, Jean.
Hi, Nils. How are you?
How are you doing?
All good?
All good, thank you. So I was just saying, today we have a guest that's going to do an introduction to Grandes Pagos de España, but also to some of the regions that we're going to travel to.
Yeah.
So we have, after this episode, we have 5 different Spanish regions that we decided to emphasize on and to, let's say, be introduced by winemakers that are from this region. So, we're not going to talk too much about the regions in depth because, they are the experts.
Not yet, right?
They have the vineyards there, they have the wines. So let's leave them do the story. But first of all, I would like to thank you very much for making some time to tune in on this show. You were a guest before. We talked about Belondrade. We will talk a little bit about that as well in a few minutes for the people that didn't watch and don't know you. But you're also here on a different role, I would say, as a member of Grandes Pagos de España.
Exactly.
And let's just start before we go in depth with a quick introduction from your side. And I think I have a nice question that will bring us to Grandes Pagos de España and what your role is there and why this organization is important for Spanish wine.
Well, Nils, first of all, I think it's really cool, to start organizing this small trip, as you've explained very briefly. But I think it's going to be something interesting to share with all the people following the endeavor, not only today, but as you said, there are 5 more dates to come. I think if I'm not wrong, the dates are already confirmed, and you have all the information on your profile and on Grandes Pagos de España profile as well. So I think just important to remind that.
They're on the website, they're on the Instagram, so everybody can already take the calendar.
So if you miss information, it's because you don't want. Right?
No, it's no excuse.
So Nils, one thing I wanted to remind as well, I wasn't meant to be here tonight. I'm just super glad at the end that it worked out. But I think Javier Zacanini was meant to present the association today, but for some technical issues he couldn't do that. And I think that probably there are some people that don't know it, but we had this little chat with your Cellar Talks in the past. I don't know when it was, probably in the little bit before summer, if I'm not wrong. Probably it was.
I think it was even longer. I think spring, something like that. So it's quite a time ago, and we did some reviews after that. But I think the episode is already quite some time ago. Yes.
So I think it's a good occasion to catch up again.
Totally.
So,
but for Javier, you're right. Javier was actually planned to do the introduction. So I'm also pleased to announce that I've been talking to Javier. We will do something in the future, and also on a personal note about his project and his winery. But I think we have also a great ambassador in you, so you'll have to prove yourself today. Obviously, you're not Javier; you're a different guy. But I think we're very happy to have you today.
Thank you, Neil. But I think it's nice as well, Javier. And if you have the opportunity to set something in the future with him and get to discover and share with the rest of the people its projects, I think he's someone who has who already has a name in Spain, in the Spain winemaking scene. He's been working on different projects, and now, as you said, he's started his own. And I think it's probably one of the last wineries who has entered the association. But he's been part of the association, as I said, with when he was working for another winery. So he's been, in here and knows the association and how it works, the organization, everything from scratch, almost. We
But
can
it's
say so.
that was with Aalto, but Aalto is still a member also of the association,
Exactly,
or not? Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
So both are now
Not to
this
mention that.
old winery, but also the new winery is a
Exactly,
member of the association. Yeah.
exactly. So, but I think it's just to make these joints right, and then jump to answering your question. I think it's interesting as well to get the opportunity. I should not be the one saying that, but I think that there is a new generation coming in with very good ideas, and this is something probably I can just develop furthermore during the chats we're gonna have. But there is a lot of people from second, third generations that are getting more and more involved in the association, and that's something that, in my opinion, should be really highlighted during all these different interviews or chats you're going to be making with people from Grandes Pagos, right?
So it's not just about the history and also the people that have been there for a long time. It's also about the new people joining in the wine scene in Spain, how it's changing on that level.
Yeah. No, and I think it's definitely it's changing a lot. When I mean, it's almost an obligation, I think, because we can be talking right now about wine and about, for example, an association, but you can translate that to almost anything, in my opinion, in the world. That you just cannot fall asleep on what you've managed to make. You need to keep on going and evolving. And I think it's part of the work that the association has been carrying out in the last few years. So just very briefly to introduce a little bit what is Grandes Pagos for maybe the people that are not acquainted with the association yet. So we're talking about a non-profit organization. Basically, we're talking about a few wineries with a common philosophy that decided to simply put all their efforts together in order to get like a stronger voice, right? And share this philosophy with the rest of the people. Try to defend it on the legal side, on the communication side. So it's in my opinion important then to then remind people that when we're talking about this common philosophy, I think it's kind of easy to understand. It's simply to produce, to create, to elaborate wines with a really clear and true sense of terroir, right? When we're talking about these wines that really reflects a climate, a soil, a vineyard in particular, that's what we are talking about in that case. So it's very, very interesting when we try to draw some similarities with other associations that probably some of the people know. I don't know, for example, we can talk about the VDP in Germany.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask because we have a lot of international viewers. So if you're from Germany, then you know VDP probably, but there are some other associations. I know in Austria as well. We had an example that we talked in the previous shows. But can you compare a little bit those organizations with Pagos de España?
Yeah, of course. I was just about to say that for me, probably it's just, it sounds a little bit closer, but I think a very good example or model to look at as well is l'Union des Grands Crus in Bordeaux. Just once again, different projects with their own independence, their own management, and they just decide to come together with a single voice in order to defend something in common, right? So I would say that there are definitely fair amounts of differences. The thing is that we're not here to make any enemies, right? So we're not gonna.
So it's not a matter of being in the club or out the club.
No, not at all. And I think it's just once again probably as well a reflection of the culture. But I think that's without making any nasty comparisons. What I'm gonna probably try to do during the next few minutes is to explain how Grandes Pagos works and why we understand this organization and the direction is following right now is what we consider the good one or the accurate one, right? So
Yeah.
it's interesting because if we once again not to compare, but if we try to establish some similarities or differences with other association, Grandes Pagos is quite young because it was first created in 2000, and firstly, which is something curious, it was created as Grandes Pagos de Castilla. I think that it's nothing I mean, most of the people will already know that, but Castilla-La Mancha, which is located right on the south of Madrid, so center south of the country, it's probably known and worldwide, I will say, for being one of the most competitive wine regions in the world. So mostly known for producing bulk wines, very cheap wines, very often not very qualitative neither.
It's hard to stand out if you're a winemaker there.
Exactly, and I think that's the reason why five wineries initially decided to stand together in order to differentiate themselves from the rest of the region, and that's how it started in 2000. With Grandes Pagos de Castilla. So it started evolving, and right now in 2021, we're talking about 35 wineries. So 35 wineries
from all over Spain now.
Exactly. I think that's probably the only region which is really missing, and it's a real pity. It's probably gonna come at some point, but because it's a region which is just which has this identity which is so unique with
it's
real
very
history,
much on its own,
which is the Canary Islands, and so I think that once again, if we look at the history, the very short history of Grandes Pagos, I think it's definitely gonna come at some point. But my point is that, as you said, it's covering almost 90% of the territory from north to south and east to west, which is very interesting then because we're not only covering differences of soils, for example, but climates. So it's really, in my opinion,
and also grapes, for instance.
Yes, definitely. Well, I think we're gonna get there, but when we're talking about grapes, I think we're talking about probably 40 something different grapes between foreign grapes and native grapes, because I think that's something I'd really like to insist on when you are talking about Grandes Pagos. So there is this common philosophy, but then obviously there is absolutely no interaction from the association.
No influence from the association.
No influence in saying how the members should, I don't know, like work in some ways. So it's.
But it's really a bit different when you compare to Germany, for instance, because there are more or less rules that are, I say, this region, if you want to make a GG wine, then it depends on the reason which wine you can take. It's not every grape that you can use to put that label on.
But I think, Nils, if we definitely know that we're talking about Germany, we're talking about a country which, it's not about the wine culture, because definitely wine culture has been present in Spain. Viticulture and winemaking has been present in Spain for centuries. But when we are talking about an organized industry, you cannot compare, for example, Spain with Germany. And but then you cannot compare neither. For example, when we are talking about grape varieties, I think that I'm probably saying something wrong, and probably there is people here to correct me.
I know you're not afraid to say something. Also, just to, I mean, sometimes you just have to say it, even if it's wrong.
Yeah. So then, please correct me or jump in if I'm wrong. But so Germany, we're talking about 13 different regions, if I'm not wrong. But how many different grape varieties? First of all, for white wine, in great majority, we may talk about three great, let's say, and most representative grapes, and then for the rest, but Germany is not recognized neither, which is a shame, but not recognized really worldwide for
really,
the potential of the red wines.
How do you call it? Focused on a mono viticulture, mono
yes.
wine culture.
And I think that everything is probably much more established, and so that's the reason why I think that it's interesting, because when we're talking about winemaking, we are talking about an interpretation at the end. That's something my father used to always say. So it's not because you take 5 chefs and you give them, each of them, the same ingredients that they're going to make the same dish, right?
No,
So that's
even very much different. They all want to make their own
exactly.
signature on the dish.
So that's the word you've used. It's
Yeah.
signature. So I think that's then, you know, wine is the result of this interpretation, the signature of
Yeah.
the people who are behind this wine. It's I think it's not, you know, something you can just come with from one day to another and then change direction. It's really a fruit of a matured decision usually,
Yeah.
and that's the reason why you know, the association simply believe that when we gather some qualitative, let's say qualitative, what's the word I can use here, uh, reasoning or you know, qualitative standards,
Yeah.
then you're free to interpret the land and the terroir as you wish, which in my opinion is accurate. So I have searched for the exact number, and I said 40 something different grape
Yeah.
varieties. We're talking about 46 different grape varieties,
Within
23
the
red.
members of this association.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So 23 red and 23 white. So we have
There's
like
even a
equality.
lot more whites maybe than people would think.
Yeah, yes, but I think that Niels, you know, probably
Yeah.
once you're starting this trip
The white
in
wines,
Spain,
yeah, you can tell me about that. That's
definitely, I'm probably I won't say the accurate person. There are tons of people that probably as I won't say as prepared, but as probably angry as we are in that side. But it's what Spain is recognized worldwide as a red producing country, which is
yeah.
a real pity because the potential to produce great white wine is simply amazing. So I think that this data is, in my opinion, really accurate to illustrate that. So what's interesting then, if we start really digging, is that from this, between these 23 red varieties and these 23 white varieties, we have some, for example, more local or indigenous
Yeah.
varieties like Bobal, like Tempranillo, like
Verdejo.
Garnacha, Cariñena, for the reds.
You're talking about the reds first.
Yes, and then, but then you have, for example, people working as well with Cabernet Sauvignon, with Petit Verdot, while on the white side, you have definitely Verdejo. I won't lie, it's
For sure.
Albarino, Parellada, but you have some foreign varieties like Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc. So I think it's once again very important that simply people take this decision and are the one really in charge of interpreting this terroir as they wish. Then, as I said,
Well,
they have like to accomplish with certain standards simply to be part of the association, right?
yeah, I think that's also one of the reasons why I was very keen on doing this with you guys, with the association and with the members, because I still think, and I'm certainly not the only one, is that Spain is, let's say, undervalued for its variety and diversity when it comes down to wine, but also to the quality. And we had some discussion before in our previous talk about how that's has affected your winery and the grape that you use, because I think is a great example. Verdejo is also has a stamp for most people in the world, and you managed to interpret this grape and by still being true to the terroir and everything, but interpret it in a different way, and then making it a brand on its own. But what I wanted to show also through this series is that there is much more to Spain than just Tempranillo or just Verdejo.
Definitely.
And I think it's great that we have, after this show, 5 more shows where you have very different varieties. And you mentioned the Pinot Noir. I think next week, I'll double check for the
I think
viewers.
it's in 2 weeks that you have Cortijo Los Aguilares.
Yeah,
That is the reason why you were
yeah,
talking about the
they're
Pinot Noir.
deep down in the south, but they are Petit Pinot Noir, Petit Verdot, and in a place where I think most people will be very surprised that those wines come from there.
You know, that's the word. You know, when you say surprise, because when you think about Spain, for most of the people that haven't traveled to Spain, because definitely it's probably for some of us, it's something easy to say. I think you've lived in Spain for a short period of time, but not everybody can do that. And then this idea that people has about Spain is this just very desertic country. Then people think very often as well, you know, about the beach, because it's true that the coastline
Yeah.
is huge in Spain. So it's a peninsula.
And they have a big city in the middle, which is called Madrid, and then there's not
yeah,
much more.
yes, and
Well,
that's just easy
Barcelona and
to place,
Catalonia.
right? It's the middle, and then Barcelona, which is definitely, you know, on the Mediterranean side, closer to France. But what's really surprising is that when you open the book once again and you start scratching, you see that there are places, for example, in where Cortijo de los Aguilares is based, which is called Sierra de Grazalema, which is
Yeah.
down south close to Malaga. It's actually one of the places in Spain where the rainfalls are the highest, which is very surprising. Most of the people will definitely say it should be somewhere in Galicia or in the Basque Country, and not even, it's in
was risen
Andalusia.
as well.
So yeah, I think it's once again, to come back to what you were saying before, I think that very often, so you play with a certain disadvantage, but if you know how to analyze the situation properly, I think that you can turn that into an advantage and differentiate yourself. So that's really, in my opinion, something in which the association probably will help.
It's nice that you use the word differentiate, because I remember, and it is not with Grandes Pagos de España, but this is a different association. I think you guys are attached to that as well. It's an association of white winemakers in particular. But I remember when we had the last talk, that, well, you travel around a lot, you talk to other winemakers, and a lot of people also ask you, okay, what's the Belondrade? It's a successful winery, but what's the secret of your success? And I remember we talked about that, and then you said, okay, you really have to. I mean, everybody can make wine. You can learn how to make wine. You can take a grape and you can look at the market and you can see, okay, this is a popular grape, so people will buy this, because people know what a Verdejo is and people know what the Tempranillo is. But then, do you want to stick to that, or do you want to create your own brand, or do you want to create your identity? And I think that's very important. So you can even, and you guys showed it, that you can create a premium product where there's, for the same grape, a lot of wines in the world that's, well, don't have that standard. So how do you do that? I mean, I know that your father has 4 principles, more or less, how he, let's say, opened, why he moved to Rueda, and how what his philosophy is. And I think those 4 principles tie into that question, and also to Grandes Pagos de España. So maybe you want to jump in on that one, but
I think it's it's a complicated question.
It's 3 questions in one.
You know, it's definitely a tricky question. But I really think that just to try to tie that with the association, in that case with Belondrade, which is definitely the project I'm the more inclined to be talking about. But I think that all of the wineries that are part of the association, they have demonstrated somehow that they are solid and recognized projects, which in my opinion, I think it's probably in that direction that you wanted to go. That's interesting that you mentioned that, because obviously the association, as I said before, we're talking about 35 different projects, 35 different wineries all across Spain. I mean, you don't become a member from one day to another by snapping the fingers. There are logically you need to fulfill some conditions. You need to submit.
There's sort of a framework where you have to live by, more or less. Yes, it's not rules, but
the thing is that very often, and you definitely know that the wine world is so full of, I cannot say this word, but there are the difference between what people say and what people do is so huge that very often, and that's probably where the complicated part comes in. But the association really needed to establish some standards that are logically and mathematically probably demonstrable. You need to say that, for example, something very basic, when we are talking about a sense of origin, in order to become a member of Grandes Pagos de España, you need to be your own viticulture, let's say. So you need to source and cultivate your own grapes, be independent.
So you cannot be a negociant or whatever.
No,
how
you
you
cannot
want
be a
to stamp
negociant. The only existing alternative is that you may establish contracts, long-term contracts with viticultures in order to guarantee the quality of the grape. But you cannot simply go and wander around, as it can happen some vintages where the price of the grapes goes up and down, and there is less
sort
of
of
the grapes.
Spreading the risk more or less for yourself as an entrepreneur, as a company.
So I think that in our case it was very easy, because since probably day one, that was part of my father's concept when he decided to launch Belondrade, that we needed to be what we call in French a vin chateau. So vin chateau, I just enjoy a lot explaining this expression, this concept, because when you talk about a chateau, obviously it's a French word, but it's very easy to translate to other languages. And plus, because of Bordeaux, it's something that comes to people's mind very easily. So you just picture this big castle, and so not at all.
People automatically have an idea about it, and a chateau and a domain, they also belong to each other. This is in the head.
But you said domain, Niels, which is what it should stand for, and I think that the correct expression instead of vin chateau should be vin de domaine. But we're not gonna change that from one day to another.
Just make it a nice picture so everybody knows it's a chateau.
No, and that's because as you know, in the past you looked at the typical Bordeaux wine label, and you had like this gravure, this drawing of the chateau, and but I think we're far away from that. But the concept, it sticks, and I think that it gives you an idea, because it's true that in Bordeaux usually the chateau, they own and they work and they harvest their own vineyard. So and that's where the concept takes roots, and that's the reason why when we say that Belondrade had to be a vin chateau since day one, it was this reference that we needed to become at some point. When you're starting with a project, just picture you're about to start this project, you have the idea, which is definitely the first step. Probably you don't have like the amount of money to save from one day to another. Okay, I'm gonna just build this winery. I'm gonna buy 10 hectares of vines, because it's probably not that easy. It's easy to say, but not easy to put in.
I just came back from Burgundy, and even if you talk about that region, a lot of young winemakers, or let's say if you're the second or the third one in the family, at some point it stops. Let's say dividing all the vineyards, because then there's nothing left. So what they do is they say, okay, give me some money. I will do my first vintage. I will just buy 100% of the grapes, and then second vintage, I hope to do just 90%, and I make 10% of my own. And so slowly you move into having your own vineyards, but that's the process. It costs a lot of money, and it's not. You cannot start like that.
That's something, and I don't want to get too far away from the main topic.
No.
But it's very interesting now that you're talking about Burgundy, because so there was this how do you say, this event, a summit that was organized in Valladolid a few weeks ago, which is the International Douro Wine Fest. And so it's basically people from all around Spain, experts, and some foreigners as well, that gather here in Valladolid to talk about different issues related to viticulture, to winemaking. So we took part to this round table about sustainability. And it's very strange, because when you talk about sustainability, which is, I'm just going to do a short parenthesis, but which is another important, let's say, leg of the association, Grandes Pagos. I think that we're talking probably about, I would say 80% of the association is certified organic, and 5% biodynamic, and the rest is in conversion. So that's definitely an important leg for association, but that was not the point I was making.
But that's not a rule. That's why the people choose it.
No, that's in my opinion, that gives a lot of strength to the association. It's not I want to become a member, so I'm gonna turn myself to sustainability, to organic or to whatever. It's simply because, once again, we're coming back to the same. It's what people believe they have to do. That's the path they want to follow, right?
Yeah.
So then, to come back to the story I was telling you before, so it was very interesting, because talking about sustainability, very often people start to talk about very, let's say, very evident things, like for example, how we work, how we plow the vineyard, how we prune, how we do this, how we do that. And very often I think that we're missing the big picture because we're looking too much into detail. And so my father had an interesting point in which he said that probably the big problem we have in Spain is that we're missing an important piece of sustainability, which is an aesthetic sustainability, which is trying not to destroy the landscape in order to give it to our, the next generations. And it's true that you look at Burgundy, for example, what's the price of an hectare in Burgundy? More or less. Do you know?
I have no clue. I heard some numbers. I quickly forgot it because it was so much that I was like, in a normal lifetime, people cannot put together the money to buy a decent domain size with vineyards. I mean, people are happy. People are happy there with a handful of hectares. I mean, how much wine can you make on that? That's
Just try to picture with the investment. So investments, it depends logically on the region, the sub-region, on a lot of factors. But if you look at Champagne, at Bordeaux, and at Burgundy, which are probably the three most recognized regions in France and probably even in Europe, I mean, we can talk about Barolo, which is different, but we're talking roughly about 1 million euro per hectare. So we're 10,000 square meter. I don't know if
you need to bring a private investor or a bank if you want to start.
Which is a problem because then, as you've said, when the family, I don't know, for example, regular family that has 2-3 kids, how can they have 2-3 hectares?
No.
Very often, the only option you have is to sell to someone else or to try to. So it's very complicated. But my point is that with this price. On the land, we don't have like to achieve and get to this objective in Spain. But my point is that in Spain, land is so affordable and so cheap that's the reason why they are building highways. They are building, I don't know how to say that, like windmills, like electric windmills.
For energy.
They are building tons of.
They don't care about it because there is enough and
they don't care because land is too cheap. So if you have, for example,
to
evict someone, just picture to evict someone because you're gonna build a highway. So you say,
you just put them somewhere else.
And you say the price of the hectare here is 20 or 30,000 euros. So we know that it's okay. We can build it, and we're gonna pay the owner, and it's okay. Trying to picture that in Bordeaux, I don't know how many hectares you need in order to build a highway, but that's just unpayable. And thanks to that, you are protecting this landscape. So, but anyway, that was.
But your message in that is that people should think, even if there is an abundance of these things and it's cheap, it doesn't mean that you should not be respectful about it. It's the opposite. You should even protect it by being more respectful, so that it doesn't become
give it the value it deserved. Yeah, definitely. But I mean, that was an interesting point because I think that it's the type of stuff that very often you can think on your own, but when you're part of an association, it just grows bigger. So that's probably one of the many points we can talk about when we gather, and in order to defend, because as I've said at the beginning. There is as well, probably, which is tiny. I don't want people to think that Grandes Pagos is a lobby, but it's what Grandes Pagos, for example, was involved in the law of the Pagos, Vinos de Pago, that was signed, I think, 10 or 12 years ago.
But you said you don't want to come across that it's a lobby, but maybe it's just because the fact that you guys stood up, some winemakers in the beginning stood up and made an association. It's not typical for Spain to be in an association and to come together. So maybe just the fact that they do it is on itself makes them recognizable as a power is a big word, but I mean, if nobody does it or it's not a habit.
As you said, power is probably a big word, but a big word, But I think that's definitely your opinion is much more likely to be taken into account when you just gather more people and you can speak with a louder voice, right? So I think that's interesting to come back to what we were saying at the very beginning. That's not anybody can become a member from one day to another. So you have to fill an application, and we probably receive about, I don't know, a dozen applications a month. So usually what we do, there's a first selection which is done based on factors, as I said, qualitative factors. You need to work in your own winery in order to get rid of the vin négociant. You need to work with your own vineyard. But
so these things are quite simple. First selection is quite simple.
So you have a list of criteria, and you just need to fill all the criteria. But then you need as well, that's something we've mentioned before, you need to have, let's say, a trajectoire. I don't know how to say that in English, but to have like a solid reputation on the market for at least the last 4 years. So you need to have like a brand,
a governance, brand sort of a governance.
Yes, I think we can say that. But you know, with the ratings, with the articles and everything, just you know, once again to get rid of, for example, people that come from one day to another, they make a great vintage, then they sell the project, you know. So it's what I think we're looking for is commitment to quality, which is very easy to understand.
Is the reason why you have this is because you want to project for the future that if somebody is a member, it's not it's for a long term, it's not for a short term success or a short term.
And I think that's, you know, that's probably the first, let's say, the first step. Then we have another step, which is the wineries that gathers all these criterias. There is an inspection. I don't like the word, but we have two people from the organization, from the association, that goes there and visits the winery. And just,
so if you come, if you do an application and you're in the second round, more or less, then people will come and have to visit your winery. So
then the wines are tasted, blind tasting, and then they need to be approved by 100% of the association. So
everybody, there's a yearly or a quarterly meeting where
exactly. So it's more or less, you know, the way the English gentleman clubs used to work. You have like the black ball system, in which if one member don't want to you know agree on a new member, it's, you don't have like to give any explanations. It's not done. But I think that's, you know, it's probably the best way to guarantee that simply association is gonna carry on the same direction. So
no, but I like it, because then otherwise you could have a situation where you are good friends with one of the members of the association, and they say, okay, I like this guy, so I will give him let's say my votes, and then based on that you can get in. But that's not possible, because you need to be friends with everybody if you want that.
But you know, wine world is such a small world that you know, everything can happen. But I'm gonna jump on what you've said to explain another part of that, because once you become a member, it's not a lifelong membership. You need, every single year, the wines are going to go through this what we call external tasting committee, in which we have 4 to 6 different people. Usually we're talking about journalists, sommeliers.
So it's rotating?
Sorry?
Is it rotating with the members every year?
Yes, but no, we try to adjust, you know, change 1 or 2 every single year in order, you know, to as well maintain a certain freshness in the criteria. But usually people simply taste the wines in a blind tasting in order to maintain an independence. So they don't know what they're tasting. They just have to grade, you know, put a grade on the wine, and say simply, you know, try to explain if the wines have what we call a tipicidad. So if the wines are really, you know, reflecting, you know, their, you know, if they have their own personality, and they have the quality, you know,
identity
to stay in the association. So that's interesting, because once again, we're not gonna draw any comparisons with neighbors, but there are some associations, very well-known associations, in which the wines are simply tasted, but it's not a blind tasting. So at the end,
you just see the bottle and you know, okay, I'm going to drink now your wine.
You know that, you know, if you simply, you know, put a good grain to my wines, I'm going to do the same for you. So scratch my back and I'm going to scratch yours.
It's impossible if you do it blind.
What we wanted to avoid. So that's, in my opinion, interesting point, because, you know, it's ensure that there is like a commitment to quality which is maintained during all the life cycle of the members in the association, right?
I have a question that I got, and it's regarding the word Pagos. Well, actually, double question. First question is, because we really not particularly went into that, but if you would describe the word Pagos, the meaning of that in one sentence, what would that be?
Okay, I'm going to try to do even better.
It's
even
typical
than a sentence,
Spanish word. So,
2 words, single estates.
Okay.
What we understand as pago in Spain is a delimited piece of land. That's
Okay.
a pago. That's a single estate. The thing is that I'm just going to try not to put my finger in that swamp because otherwise it can be complicated with the translation. But very often I try simply to explain that very briefly to make a difference. When I explained I've explained at the very beginning that the association, for example, doesn't get involved in how the wines are made or which grapes are used. For example, in the association, you have wineries that are in DO, in an appellation. You have wineries that are out of a DO, but part of, for example, of an IGP. You have wineries that have no appellation whatsoever, nothing.
So very different.
What I want to state, because there is like, let's say the top of the pyramid in the appellation system in Spain, it's what we call Vino de Pago. And Vino de Pago, usually it's, you have, in my opinion, I think, if I'm not wrong, 3 regions, 3 communities in Spain that allows you to create. That takes a very long time, probably up to 10 years to certify it, but you can create your Pago, which is like Condrieu will be in France, for example. You have your own appellation.
Pago, that is also an appellation.
Exactly. So usually I try to explain that in order to make a difference, because in Spain, that's a very common question in tastings and presentation. People is like, so is Grandes Pagos de España an association with only Vinos de Pago? And the answer is no. Grandes Pagos de España gathers
the
wineries.
word is the same, but it doesn't mean that you...
Exactly. So, but that makes reference to the same thing, right? If we try to come back to the root, to the origin of the word, we're talking about a pago, which, as you say, it's a single estate.
Yeah, and the second part of that question is, okay, we talked about the law that came in at some point when it comes down to pagos. By the way, we have examples of pagos that are estates that are appellation in the show. I think we have 1 or 2 at least that have their own appellation. I have to think of which one, maybe you know when you look at the list, but they have managed to create their own appellation with their own winery. But so the word Pagos is not a word that is coined by the organization, because it's used in different ways and shapes in Spain. But the law, how does the legal parts fit into that? Because you mentioned you were involved, or not involved, but you were asked as an association to give your opinion on that. So can you explain a little bit on that?
So to be totally sincere, Niels, we've as Belondrade, we've entered the association, I won't say quite late. It's probably our 6th year, 6th or 7th year. So to be totally sincere, I don't have the exact details on how the association have been, let's say, involved in the creation of the law. I know that it was, that's how it happens, but I don't have the exact details. What I know is that they've tried to defend the use of this term, because at the end, let's say that the organization, the association Grandes Pagos de España already existed. So they had this word pago that was involved in the creation of a new law, which would be, as we explained, the top tier of the pyramid in Spanish wines. So,
but maybe you know why this law came, because this has nothing to do with the association, but you as a winery also were influenced by the law that at some point was
so Niels, the thing is that, once again, and probably I might be wrong, but I think that there are 3 or 4 different communities or regions around Spain in which the law actually allows you to create your own pago. So it's something you need to go through the Ministry of Agriculture, to demonstrate through years of studies that this place is totally unique, and and so on. But Castilian, for example, it's not possible. So that's probably the reason why I'm probably not the best person to talk to you about that. But I'm definitely, now that you ask, I think it's a real pity I don't know all the details. So I'm gonna ask, and the next time you're gonna ask me this question, I'm gonna know the answer. Yeah,
I know. Well, we have some members coming up in different episodes, and I was just checking. I think Tony Saron is with Bodega Mostiguillo. He has his own appellation, more or less. It's his winery, his domain is an appellation. So he was like, he went through this process, what you just described, and is a good example on how you can create. And I think that's quite unique if you look at the world and wine world, that you can, if you have your estates of your domain, that you essentially, if you follow the right process and you have this uniqueness and you can prove it, that you can become an appellation. And in France, you mentioned Condrieu, but it's really, well, it happened long ago with a lot of money. Or
I mean, I've said Condrieu, Nils. It's actually Chateau Grillé, the appellation I was thinking about. Not. But I think it's I don't want once again to go through this dangerous path. But I think I can say that it's something I personally don't understand as a French guy, that in Spain, not all the communities have the same laws, which is, I don't know. I'm not saying that we would like to create, to become Vino de Pau, but I think that there is absolutely no logic behind the fact that we cannot do it. So it's
I mean, I'm a Dutch guy, and I mean, we do have wine, as you know, but not a lot. And even if we would have wine, I mean, if there is wine, and there are good wines, and there's better wine coming up, but we don't have an appellation system and anything like that. So with us, everything is the same. We have IGP Holland. This is what you can have. There is no different levels there. But looking at that and looking at all these countries like Germany, like France, like Italy, even, where it's Italy is also like one big,
very complex.
Everybody has his own opinion, and it's difficult. But still, they manage to sort of less come with a countrywide system where there is still, on a local level, there are differences. But for outsiders, it's relatively easy to get into that. In Spain, that's impossible, more or less.
I would say, Nils, that the classification in Spain is probably complicated in the sense that there are still a lot of new appellations that are coming. I mean, in the last probably 2-3 years, I think that, for example, I know Arlanza, for example, has become a DO, but it's still quite a young DO. But there are probably some more to come in the future, because viticulture is simply the good fit in this country, which is very weird, because if you look at a map of France or a map of Italy, you have almost the whole territory is covered by appellations, and it's already all organized and all set, which is as well the reason why I think it's very interesting to be part of an association like Pagos de España, because you know that you're already on board of a ship which is definitely setting the good direction to follow, because I'm sure there are going to be some evolutions within the law and within the organization of the territory within the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years in Spain. So that's
But even if you manage to become an appellation, and if you get the stamp from the government and the Ministry of Agriculture, etc., still, it's on itself, you're not there. I mean, okay, then you can say we have this appellation, but the power of your organization that you have as a group of people that also shares knowledge and have the same standard is much bigger, because one company on his own or one entrepreneur on his own cannot, even if he gets this appellation signed off, you're not there. You still have to go into the market. You still have to show yourself. You still have to come up with an identity.
That doesn't mean, you know what? There is this sentence that my grandfather used to say: making wine is very easy. Selling it's like a totally different world.
There's a lot of wine, and
that's
there's a lot of wine in the world, and also a lot of Spanish
and
wine.
you need to stand out. Yeah, no, that's totally true. But you said something in your last sentence. You've mentioned something about knowledge and sharing knowledge, which is definitely something, in my opinion, really worthfully to at least mention of the association, is that we gather at least once a year in order to exchange things we've been working on. Probably, I don't know, we organize like a discussion forum. If we have, for example, some doubts regarding one point of the vinification, or there are people to exchange with. There are this is something quite new, but we've started organizing, which is tastings of foreign wines. So, for example, we had like South African wines tasting organized by Juan Asenjo, which is one of the great experts here in Spain. So we just try to keep on the day-to-day still updated, not only on the technical side, which is, as I've explained, but on the commercial side as well. So more of the same. Export managers, owners, they gather a few times a year in order to define a strategy to follow, which we try to put together 35 different opinions. So it's not easy, but in order to once again probably exchange some tips regarding markets, regarding anything we consider can be interesting and useful for other members. So really try
but
to
if you go back
contribute
into the 90s or 80s or even further back, it would be unthinkable in Spain to come with an organization to do this. I mean, okay, now you guys have been working on this for quite some years already, but there was never a time to do that. I mean, there was just no solid grounds to build an organization like that on. There was no foundation.
But I think it's definitely in my opinion, a good sign of how things are evolving, because I think it's really a mistake to see everyone who's making wine as a competitor. I think that the market is big enough if you do your work properly to simply try to share, and that's another, in my opinion, solid part of the association. The association, you want to be part of the association, but not to benefit from what others have to bring, but from you want to share with the rest as well what you have in order to make them better.
Because you have the same beliefs, and if you have the same beliefs, it's important that you share those experiences, because if you're all sharing the same beliefs, you want people to prosper on those beliefs. Definitely. And for that you have to share your best practices and your experiences. And even if you're from a very different region, it's even good, because somebody who is from Galicia, they will have different challenges than somebody, as you mentioned, that is from
but we may have to face the same struggle as well. So I think that's it really makes the difference. Then I think another interesting part is the let's say the training and communication and training part. So for example, we try to organize tastings not only in Spain but worldwide with different sommelier school or associations. And I think that's at the end, it's links with what I was explaining before, that together we make more noise. It's not this.
Now we're back.
Sorry, I had an incoming call. So it's not the same going, for example, to I don't know, to the States and organize tasting on your own, rather than doing that with 34 fellow producers. Logically, you're going to bring much more attention, much more people, which is definitely in the benefit of the
and also in the cost side of it as well. I mean, it's expensive to do things like that, and if you do it on your own, it's even more expensive.
So that's cost-wise, logically, it's much more interesting. I haven't defended this point, but believe me, it's interesting. So then it's I think it's an investment, because things have to be said like this. It's not free.
Nothing is
for
free.
It's in the benefit of all the members, and personally, and that's as Jean Belondrade, I have to say that it was for us a good move when we decided to become a member 6-7 years ago. I think it was a good decision. We were really convinced of the work the
Oh,
association
well,
is carrying
the
on.
fact that you get so many applications already says something, because these people know that it's not for free and they still want to be part of it. So the fact that they want to invest money in becoming part of a larger group of people and sharing and learning those things, sharing these experiences, and yeah, it means there is a trigger in their heads that they think they need to do something differently, because otherwise you will not make the step to even try to apply to become a member.
Yeah, that's an accurate point of view, or putting it. I really think that it's making difference, and as you said, even if it's just because I think that we are giving as an association an example of how, in my opinion, the sector is going to grow once again, regarding not only things like sustainability, once again, because it's a word that we use very often without really knowing why or how, but there are more and more associations that are getting created right now everywhere in the new world, old world, depending on a lot of factors. But I really think that it's a path which is definitely accurate, once again, to defend what's yours. And that's something which is going to just keep growing. Being probably one of the first ones in Spain, being the first one in Spain, I think really makes a difference.
Yeah, it's a good place to be. Yeah. So I want to do the following. We still have, on the clock we have 4 minutes left, but you and me, we always have a little bit more because it doesn't stop there. I don't know what you're going to do afterwards, but I want to do the following. I quickly want to run through the next episodes. So to introduce mainly the regions and a quick overview of the members that will be showcasing their own region, more or less. And then in the meanwhile, if people have questions, then they can drop them in the chat. So then if there are still questions at the end, we can do that afterwards. So we'll close it up like that. So if you're okay with that, I don't know if you have any other topics you would like to bring to the table, but we can talk for hours about Grandes Pagos. But it's
Nils, important question. What have you been drinking?
Yeah, I wanted to save it for the last, but I was also looking at your glass. I know it's red wine, but it's a good question because it's a nice bridge as well. We are planning to drink as part of the show, which I always do, as you know, one wine for each winery that we have as a guest. So the plan is to have that. So Grandes Pagos de España has no wine of their own, so you could not send me a bottle of Grandes Pagos de España wine. Maybe it's something for the future that you guys can make your association wine, just for as a marketing or PR.
Believe me, trying to put together 35 persons
it's
just
a nice
to decide
blend.
where to organize the tasting. It's complicated enough.
It's a nice blend, Jean, and you guys are really good at blending. I know that. Maybe your father can figure out something on this. But all jokes aside, no. So we are going to do, for the people that are watching, every episode we're going to drink one of the wines from the winery that we're discussing, and that is our guest, as we always do in my talk show. But today there was nothing, so I had to pick something else. Obviously, I wanted to pick a Spanish wine, but I could not find a wine that was decent enough that made the cut. And I also didn't want to go into the association wines already. So you being French by origin, I thought, let's go with a French wine and not a Spanish wine. It's a red one. And I know
nice
the easy bet would have been that I would go to Bordeaux. It's nice dark, so it could be a Bordeaux wine. But for you, it would be too easy. So I decided to take a Shiraz from the Rhône. So we were talking about Condrieu, and I'm not a Condrieu, but we're very close there. So that was my pick for today. So very different.
Yeah, I think that's.
But before we go to yours, then I want to know there are producers that produce Shiraz. I think even, but I'm not 100% sure. Next week, but we'll come to that in a minute. We have. No, that's.
You have Alonso del Hierro, I think.
Yeah, I have Alonso del Hierro.
Huh?
They have. Oh no, I'm not sure. They don't have Shiraz. I think one of
No.
the guests has also Shiraz.
So I think that if we're looking about, that's a very good question, because out of the five, probably, and I don't want to say like something silly I'm gonna regret, but
Yeah.
Cortijo Los Aguilares, I'm pretty sure they have some Syrah in the coupage of their
Yeah.
main cuvée. I'm pretty sure. But
Yeah.
that's probably not the only one. You know, that Syrah, it doesn't look like, but it's among the 4 most planted varieties in Spain, if I'm not wrong. I actually had an overview, you know, a brief overview on the most planted varieties in Spain 2 weeks ago, and it's
Yeah.
very, very surprising, because so there are
So
less
I
foreign
did
varieties
think
than you
I
thought.
was very close to Spain still with this grape at least.
But I think that if you're talking about the Rhône, and
Yeah.
that's something personal I'm about to say, but I think that not only climate-wise, but soils-wise, I think you find a lot of similarities with the Douro Valley, the place in
Yeah.
which we're located. So it's interesting mirror to look at, you know, to
Okay.
get inspiration. So I think that Syrah, in our case, we planted Syrah, I would say about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's really showing very interesting results. I mean, we use it to do a rosé, you know, Quinta Clarissa.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a very polyphacetic variety. So, you know,
I always
just
thought that
behaves
you
very
used
well.
the Tempranillo for that, but it's
Mostly
a little
it's
bit.
75% Tempranillo, 25% Syrah. But the intention really is to slowly try to craft more vines to Syrah and grow bigger in Syrah,
Okay.
because it's really, I think that you don't have to be too extreme in what you
No.
you preach. And in our opinion, I think that we've been defending Verdejo for more
Yeah.
than a quarter of century, and we still believe in that. But I think that you don't want to simply, you know, close the door to foreign varieties and say, oh no, foreign varieties. It's much more about the fit between a grape variety and an environment and a terroir.
Yeah.
Rather than simply saying, so for example, try to plant I don't know, an Albarino here in our region on the Castilian Plateau, and you will understand very quickly that probably Viognier, for example, is a better suit. So it's you don't have like to simply try to, you know, become blind.
But
and not listen.
even in regions, well, not even. I think precisely in regions like Bordeaux, they just decided that now they're going to allow for the future grapes like Albarino, etc. And there's a good reason for that. So they're not stuck on their grapes either. But now you got to tell me what you're drinking.
So it's funny because without really, you know, saying nothing before the show, and I swear, I just decided to jump to the same area. The thing is that same area. We're in France, obviously in the Rhône, white, but I'm drinking this beautiful Condrieu from Georges Vernet, 2019, Terrasse de l'Empire. So we try usually once to 2 weeks at the winery to open and blind taste some interesting wines. Usually we try to stick to great white wines of the world. And that was today's pick. And we just had half of the bottle. They decided, you know,
so you had
taking
a good
this
day
beauty
today.
home. And so that was really, really gorgeous. You know, and that's, you know, type of stuff. When I was mentioning that you don't have like to stick always to what, you know, my grandfather used to do it like that. So I'm just going to do the same. For example, in our case, we decided to plant Viognier 15 years ago, in very small proportions around the estates, and it's giving beautiful results. It wasn't the case with the very, you know, the very few first vintages, but now that
it really took a little bit longer to prosper and to grow.
When you taste stuff like this, and I'm not saying that, you know, you cannot, there is a uniqueness not only related to the grape variety, but because of the, once again, the terroir that, you know, you cannot copy and paste. But I think it's always probably the best recommendation I could give to anyone in the wine world or the wine sector. That's, you need to try to broaden up your horizons and drink things that make you dream and make you improve in everything, not only sticking to drinking my own wines and, you know, like
no, it's really where you learn the most is where you go out of your comfort zone and really go into some new regions and new varieties to see what they do. Okay,
Definitely.
so very different, but we're still very close to each other. The red and white, but
Once
we're
again,
very,
once again.
in the region there we're still close to each other. So the guests for the next 5 episodes, we're gonna start on the North Plateau with Alonso del Hierro. You're right. So just 1 or 2 sentences because we don't want to make it too long, and we also don't want to cut the grass for the feet, all of it. So what can you tell us about North Plateau and well?
Okay, so North Plateau, that's the region we're located in. When I'm saying we, I'm talking about Belondrade.
Yeah.
So Alonso del Hierro, we're located really, it's really close in terms of climates and in terms of altitude, in terms of soil composition. It's probably the most similar project you're going to be interviewing with Belondrade. So we're very close to the Douro River. It's actually Alonso del Hierro is part of the Ribera del Duero appellation. So very dry and continental climate, high altitude. I think we're about almost 800 meters high. And they work mostly with Tempranillo. In my opinion, it's probably one of the most interesting projects you can find in this part of the Ribera, because it's not the typical Ribera expression we've known for years, which is just about, extraction and color and alcoholic degree and explosion of flavors. In my opinion, it's very, very Bordeaux-like. So all about finesse and elegance. So very,
A
very
very different
project.
side to what a lot of people know when they think about Tempranillo, and what is the, let's say, it's a picture that most people have.
I think that
it's not so.
Tempranillo, the thing is that when you look at, it's very simple. You think about Spain, you think about red wine, and you probably think about Rioja and Ribera. And Rioja and Ribera, they have mostly the same grape variety, which is Tempranillo. So in my opinion, it's an expression, as I said, which stands out of the typical Ribera del Duero style.
Yeah.
Looking much more, as I said, elegance and finesse in the wine. So something
it's interesting
wants to enjoy.
It's interesting because the family Del Hierro, we're going to talk to Maria, and they started 2002. So they started a few years after you guys started, I think. You're also somewhere around
1994.
94. So what's a few? It's only 8 years. So what's that? But what's an interesting story is they moved from Madrid with the family, and also really were not was, let's say, for centuries already there with the domain. They really packed their stuff and they went there and they saw the potential, as you also saw potential in Rueda, also coming from different country even, but then started to invest a lot of time and hard work and become a successful winery. So very curious to see, and also when you say Tempranillo, but more refined and elegant, then curious to see how they do that in Ribera del Duero. So that's for next week. Then after that, we will be going to Mediterrano. So that's Bodegas Mostagillo.
So I think, Nils, the really cool stuff would be to ask the next one. So to ask Maria to, for example, introduce.
Of course, you have to think about a question.
So briefly, I will say that it's probably, so we will be interviewing Tony Sarrion, who's the current president of the association. I think he's probably one of the most interesting and relevant winemakers you have right now in Spain, and not only winemaker but owner. It's his own project, and he's responsible to really putting, let's say, a capital B to Bobal, because Bobal was a very denounced very very lousy grape variety in Spain a few years back, and he was really responsible for putting it on the table.
So Mr. Bobal.
Oh yeah, I think we can definitely say that.
Interesting. Let's see what in terms of the climate and the region. So it's very different. And
climate region, you're in the Mediterranean, so which is curious because you're close to the sea. But there is like an elevation which is crazy in a very short distance. But Mediterranean climate, so more rainfalls than what we could find, for example, in Ribera, but less differences from one season to another. It's a warmer climate and higher rainfalls. What else can I do? I think that he would probably be the most suitable person to introduce the project.
I think you already gave it a good introduction.
Overview,
So I'm very curious about what Tony has to say, and also he obviously has a lot to say about association as well. So we'll dive more into that. Then after that, we're going to go to southern Spain. So then we go to Cortillo Los Aguilares.
Cortijo Los Aguilares. So we've said before, it's a very surprising thing to say that in the southern part of Andalusia, part of southern Spain, it's actually one of the places in Spain with the highest rainfalls, and so it's a beautiful landscape, with a very, let's say, I don't know how to say that in English, but the orography is very, very interesting. Once again, in a very short distance, because they are not that far away from the sea, but they have a very high altitude difference. And they work mostly, you will see, with foreign varieties, and they have managed to make what is probably recognized in Spain as one of the top Pinot Noir. So very, very interesting profile.
It's one of the most southern regions for wineries for Pinot Noir in Europe.
Probably, I don't have the exact data, but I would say very, very likely. And you will be probably interviewing Bibi, who's a great winemaker. She's a really, very, very deeply involved in the association's life. So, and she will definitely introduce you.
Like you said, a lot of French grape varieties. I think you guys, with your background in Bordeaux, you have a very good link with her and with the project that the winery that she's running with all those nice French grapes that they have there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, nice.
Definitely.
Okay, then we go to the South Plateau.
Yeah,
and that's Pagos de España.
Pagos de Garcia. So that's the southern part of Madrid. That will be part of Castilla-La Mancha. But it's really an amazing area because it's lost in the mountains of Toledo, and it's really parts of national parks. Like a very big private estates. We're talking about 100 of hectares. So they have a biodiversity which is simply amazing. So it's I would say more or less a recent project which have started in the late 90s, early 2000s, if I'm not wrong. But they have really managed to make themselves a very strong name with a very French mentality. I think not only because of the grapes they use, but the wines they produce, the style, and how they organize the different labels. You will see that. So we will be probably interviewing Adolfo. Who's once again very, very involved in the life of the association, a great winemaker, and once again he's responsible for very delicious wines.
Now we have Shiraz.
Ask him about the white wines they are making.
Viognier?
Delicious Viognier, yes.
Viognier and Shiraz, and we also have this. So and also the Bordeaux style blends.
Yes, mostly, yes.
Yeah, nice. Okay, and then the last one, we go really back up to the north. Then we were in the Pagos de Castilla.
Castilla.
They have also a small DO.
So they have, yes, indeed, they have this small DO, but I think it's a beautiful project in terms of location, in terms of climate. We're going up north, so the climate becomes cooler. You have the influence of the mountains. It's actually, if we talk about precipitation, if I'm not wrong, it's probably the greener region of the ones you will be talking about. And they've managed being part of a big group, they've managed to, in my opinion, achieve very interesting projects in terms of, making something very qualitative, oriented to quality, and developing their very own style. So
we're talking to Jose Ferrer.
Yes.
And we are talking about Grenache.
Which is very often when you talk about Garnacha, right now we think about the Garnacha from Priorat, or we think about the Garnacha of Madrid. But here, in this region, we're talking about, if you draw a line between Barcelona and Madrid, when you're more or less in the middle, around Zaragoza, you drive up north, so you're in Aragon, and that's probably the most unexplored area for Garnachas, but one probably with the greatest potential.
Yeah, we could have chosen also for that reason the Priorat. And I know you guys also have some project there, and
Yes, indeed. Yes, sir.
it's a very interesting region. But I think this is more surprising reason even that we're going to talk about, because well, Priorat, there is I think there's a good trend there already. But if we talk about this project, this is really, and also the Garnacha, I think it's very interesting to see what that will bring and what
that's
that's
an altitude Garnacha. Just I'm sure that Jose will be once again able to explain deeper and more in details. But I think it's once again another project to discover and to enjoy.
Very good. So then we had 5 more episodes after today. So then we finished with the whole season, 6 episodes.
I will be watching you guys from my phone, but no, I really think it's like a great journey you're starting.
And we're recording it, as you know. So like you said, if you cannot watch it at the moment, people that are watching now, if you want to watch this episode back, we're going to put the recording online. So it will be there for everybody to watch fully or in multiple times if you want to take 10 minutes or 15 minutes and watch a part of the show.
Perfect.
So I don't know if you have you should have a final question at least for Maria.
I should have. You know what?
No, you didn't think about it.
I remember that when we were doing the Cellar Talks, it was actually, I thought of a question for the next guest, but right now, if I'm being sincere, I I didn't have time to. So you're
that's okay. Let me ask you a question, and then because I don't have any questions coming in, so if somebody wants to ask a question, then you can do it now.
What we can do, Niels, otherwise is I'm going to try to think of a question. I will send it to you by email, and you can ask the question to Maria, because I think it's a nice way to link all different interviews. Like a nice way to break the ice. Asking them, the question of the previous guests.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Yeah. So then I would like to thank you very much again for your time. I know it's busy times, but happy that you took out some time to explain about the association Grande Pagos de España and about Spain. I think we had a very different talk than we had last time, but also I see some parallels, and I think also I totally understand why you as a winery are a member of the association, and I think it fits really well, and I think you're a good example of that. And you're now with a nice group. You're with a nice group of people, a group of wineries. So I think you really have established some good ground under the organization. And I'm happy that we have the opportunity to do this and to show people that Spain is really more diverse than just Tempranillo, Verdejo,
and so we are. And so we are.
Maybe a little bit Albarino, and then that's it. No, we're going to see that we have a lot of grapes.
Stuff, right?
yeah. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Bye. And I guess I'll see you in Spain next time.
Yeah, the plan is for me to come there in December. So then surely we're going to meet. So
let me know.
I'm looking forward to that.
We'll plan that.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
And thank you. And everybody, thanks for watching. And if you want to look back the episode, we're going to put the recording online. So next week, we're going to go to Alonso de Hierro. So very different region, Ribera del Duero, but going to be very interesting. So thank you, everybody, for watching. And stay tuned for next Friday, 7:30. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.